And good evening and welcome to OTF Connects Presents. And tonight we have a session with Trish Morgan and Susan Watt called Student Websites Using Google Sites. And we're very happy to welcome all of you as well. We have 11 participants from right across the province of Ontario who are joining us. I'm going to go back to that Ontario slide again so that we can see our far and wide participation. So we're really happy that you're here, and we hope that, that you learn some good stuff tonight about Google Sites. So I'm Susan. I'm going to turn the mic over to Trish, and I'm going to let her get started with our presentation tonight. I did not. Okay, so Trish is just testing your mic. Can you let Trish know it's hard for me because I'm in the same room. So if you can let Trish know if you can hear her. She's speaking right now. Okay, they're not hearing you. So she's going to go and do her audio setup. And I'm not hearing you either, Trish. Okay, so I'm going to get started. So tonight we're going to do a session on Google Sites for students. So Google Sites has been around for a while, and there's different ways of accessing it, and part of what we're going to do tonight is to just give you some different ways of getting in to your Google Sites account and different ways of creating sites. So I'm going to do a little introduction. And so I'm Susan, and on the right, I'm a new retiree, so I've been with the Waterloo Board throughout most of my career. I taught in Durham for a little while, and I retired in June, so I'm pretty excited about exploring some new things. Trish and I have both been quite involved with ETFO, and okay, Michelle, I'm glad you can hear. Excellent.
I'm going to jump in and see if you can hear me now.
Yes, we can hear you now, Trish. Okay, she's perfect. I'm going to just finish my introduction. Trish and I do work with ETFO as well, so we do local as well as provincial workshop facilitating for ETFO in the area of equity and also in the area of technology. I'll let Trish introduce herself. Yes, there's a cool ETFO thing happening.
So thanks very much for your patience, and that's the wonderful world of technology, but usually it just takes a minute to fix things up. So you can see from my picture, I am a grade 3 and 4 classroom teacher with the Waterloo Board. Sorry. And I am also an equity rep on the executive of the Waterloo Local in our ETFO union. And this year I started as an AQ instructor for Brock. That's been pretty exciting, working with lots of new teachers. And you can see the title there for it. And as Susan mentioned, we love doing presentations wherever we can go. And I noticed that the Summer Academy is looking for presenters again, so we'll probably throw our hat in to do that as well. We just love to spend time with teachers and do whatever we can to help you out. Alrighty, on we go. Let's get ourselves started. So first screen, you just heard a little bit about us, so we would love to hear a little bit about you for a couple of reasons. One, it's nice to know if we have lots of primaries. So you can see you're just going to use your little sticky tool there. Gives you a little symbol. If you want to type in some extra details, for example, if you're a 7-8, that's a little different than a grade 4 for junior. And if you also want to say how long you've been teaching, you don't have to, but anything you can tell us helps us out. Especially intermediates, you want to give us a grade there, that'd be great. Oh, it looks like we got a nice little range there. I think we're up to about 12 or so people, so I'll wait till I see about 12 stickies on there. And welcome to Andrea. Right, we forgot to put our middle other section. So if you don't fit into any of these categories, do it with that happening here. Add in the group that you work with the most. Could be some Rotary teachers that do all of it. Love to hear from you too. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I think we're pretty close. Last year I taught a grade 5, and this year I'm doing a 3-4. I made the jump back down to that wonderful in-between world of 3-4. We got another person just joining us. Oh, we got a few. Welcome, welcome. Don't worry, we're just getting started. We've just introduced ourselves. My name is Trish Morgan, and I'm presenting with our moderator tonight, Susan Watt. This could be a first in the OTF world. First time that we've had a moderator also as a presenter. And if anybody's having any trouble, like Susan said, there's 2 of us presenting, so you can certainly always type in a question, and one of us is always keeping our eye on that. Okay. That's good. So I'm letting Susan be in charge of advancing slides, so I just give her the eye, and here we go. And we are on to, what is your experience with Google? And I think these are pretty straightforward. I'm not going to read them to you. I'll let you choose. And again, if you want to type in something extra there. As many of you logged in tonight, Susan was giving some advice that you should be in your Google account at the same time as you're doing this. So it probably for most of you means you've got another window screen open. That'll just help in a few minutes. Excellent. Google Drive, getting some use out there. I'm always curious to see how many have Google Apps for Education. We started, I think it's 2 full years ago in Waterloo. Before that, I was using just my own Google. I will be singing the praises of Google Apps for Education as we go, that's for sure. Good, nice little range here. Okay, looks good, we're moving on. And here we go with the agenda. And there you can see in red again. You definitely want to make sure that you are logged into your Google account. And you can just slide your screens around. Welcome to Daryl, we just got here. So here's the order. We're going to talk a little bit about Google Sites, their goal, their focus, who we use them with. We'll talk about why student websites. I'll give a little bit of an info into how come I decided to do this in my classroom. As Susan told you, I think she's retired and I'm still in the front lines. And examples of some student sites, I've got one that's going to blow you away, I think, when I give you the background. And there's a scope for tonight's session. I'm going to take some tours and share lots of links with you. And then the most important part, you're all going to create a site tonight. And we've tried to narrow it down to 6 steps so that we'll chunk our instruction to help that happen for you. And then, of course, you always want to talk about privacy options and sharing. And then we've got a few other resources and support for you. And that should take us through our time. All right, Susan.
Okay, we'll get the hang of this. So Google Sites, just a couple of things about Google Sites. So they have been around for a long time, and they are available to anyone with a Google account or a Gmail account. And I can't tell you the number of people I've met that have Gmail accounts that don't understand that it's far more than a Gmail account. You know, the G is Google, so it does a whole bunch of other things. So if you have a Gmail account, you are able to create a Google site. And for those of you that are lucky enough to be in a board that has opted for Google Apps for Education, you can also create a Google site there. And the big difference in terms of education is that Gmail, Google accounts, are only available to people who are 13 and older, whereas Google Apps for Education is a tool that boards either purchase or connect with that allows all students, right, from JK all the way up to grade 12 to access their account and all of the features within that account. So that's the real benefit, and this is how Trish has been able to do Google Sites with her junior students. We weren't really able to do this, at least not according to the terms of service. The other nice thing is that it's saved online within your Google account. So the files are not saved on a specific computer. They're saved online in your account, so you can move from, you know, one computer to another computer, from home to school, from home to your cottage, and work on your Google site, which is really a lovely thing. They're also collaborative, so two teachers can work on one website, and they can both have the files within their accounts, and they can work collaboratively. A grade team can create a website. A group of students who are working on a project together can create a website. So the collaborative features are so powerful. They're also shareable in many ways, of course, like all websites. And they have a few lovely, interesting sharing options that Trish mentioned we'll talk about at the end. Google Sites use a template model. So you're not learning to read and write code when you're creating a Google website. There are templates that are created, and the Google employees have written all the code that's behind the scenes, so you don't need to. So it's a great introduction to websites, and as you gain more skill, you may want to move to a website tool that allows you to dig more into the back end of things and learn the coding, but this is a really nice way to begin. Google Sites are also integrated with all of the other Google apps. So if you, and many of you indicated that you are using Google Docs and many of the other Google apps with your students already, and sites are integrated, so it's very easy to embed a Google Doc or embed a slideshow, and we'll show you those kinds of things as we move forward. And I will reiterate again that anytime you have a question or would like some clarification, please, by all means, put it into the chat, and we'll do our best to answer those as they come up. Okay, so I'm going to let Trish take over and talk about student websites and the benefits.
Alrighty, so we've got a few bullets here for you to take a look at. Student ownership, that's pretty powerful. It is quite incredible to watch their pride in what they are creating. I can't say that enough. And because it's something that all of them can attain, it really showed me another side of my students as they were preparing this new way to communicate with the world. It's pretty unique, and I think you will be surprised too what you see. Second one, positive contribution. It's a chance for us to model what a good website is for, creating content that creates a good footprint for them. If this is their first experience of making a website, you want it to be something that's going to look good out there. Plus, you're going to have, and I noticed that we have lots of junior teachers there, you will have some parent engagement in this as well. And there's nothing like having them get pretty excited about what their students are creating with technology. And lovely, authentic audience time. So, like I said, not just parents, but I have had students who, you know, the grandparents are on the other side of the world. They put together a website, and they have shared that link with the grandparent. And that's pretty powerful for them. They can't come into our classroom, but we can take some of it to them. Options for collaboration. The amount of sharing that goes on between the students is pretty impressive. And they will definitely do their own. They'll initiate it themselves, too. I don't have to set it up all the time. They can go to each other. How did you do that? Show me what's going on here next. Or I'll put groups together to brainstorm and to review. So many possibilities there. And the next one, personal portfolio. Well, that's where my story comes in. And it was for me, I just wanted a place that they could store and share their year's work. Our school is very fortunate. We have iPads as well. So for me, my goal was, okay, we've got all these great photos on an iPad in the classroom, and I could just keep putting them on the classroom website, but they've done so many themselves, and we would coach ourselves to take pictures, especially in math or in gym or in science, great photos of work that they had done. I don't know how many times I've built marshmallow and toothpick models of 3D shapes. And then what do you do with them? Well, you take a photo of them and you put them onto a website, you now have created something that they can reflect and look back at. And we always talk about you should review the whole year. The best part is that they are picking what they want. They choose their best part, and that's where it becomes a good portfolio for students. And that experience of gives them more purpose in their daily routine as well, too. They're always thinking, this might be something I want to share later. 21st century skills, even though we're at 2016 right now, we're 16 years into this, but I can run through a website and hit all of those skills, and two of the big ones here being critical thinking and communication. They're always analyzing and deciding, how does this look? Should I put this on my website? And the whole idea of the website, as we talk about it with them, is you are communicating. And finally, development of transferable skills. Everything else that we do can connect somehow to their website. So like I said, using the iPad in the classroom, we transfer those photography skills into creating a website. It's just one simple example. And we'll mention more of those as we go along.
Excellent. Trish just was talking about 21st century skills. I don't know if you've seen this page. This is from EduGains, which is a ministry site, and it's an interesting page about 21st century learning in Ontario. I hope you can see this text. What I'd like to give you, 30 seconds to do is to scan it and pick out a phrase that you think is well connected to the idea of student websites, and either underline it, put a little happy face beside it, but pick a spot on this page that's discussing 21st century learning and pick out something that you think is important in terms of thinking about students having their own websites. Underlining, highlighting, awesome. Check mark. Okay, excellent. And I think, what we're seeing here is that in this brief synopsis of 21st century learning in Ontario, much of what's there we can target by giving students the opportunity to create their own websites. I'm going to put a link in the chat periodically through tonight to various links that we look at in our session. So this is actually a link to the EduGains website. So these links, you'll have access to this whole slideshow. Everything's being recorded, and you will get a link to the recording. You will also get a link to all of the resources that we share. So we're hoping that you will relax about taking notes, knowing that everything will be shared with you later, and this will be a hands-on session, of course, as we mentioned, and we'll free you up to go ahead and create your site. Good. Thank you for doing that and for investigating that. I'm going to let Trish talk about
All right, so what we have for you here is just one sample page, and we kind of guessed what our audience might be, so we chose something from grade 7. But as many of you know from the curriculum book, a lot of it is repeated throughout the grades. So I went in, Susan found this one, I went to the grade 3 language curriculum, and many of these start off the same. Identify an appropriate form to suit the specific purpose and audience for a media text they plan to create. And specifically in grade 7, they mention website. And while they don't mention website in the earlier grades, they do talk about knowing and preparing work for different audiences. And it's fascinating to go through the curriculum, actually, and see all of the things that are there that relate to websites. I know that when I go to, and we're going to talk about assessment a little bit, but there are so many general and specific expectations that it meets for us. Okay. Definitely extending their understanding beyond what they're doing, and recognizing a few patterns in what they're doing, identifying a variety of text features as they put it together, layouts. They're thinking the whole time as they go. Okay. Elements of style, giving a voice. So starting to write, are they writing just informational text, or are they adding their own commentary? And I do that definitely from grade 3s that I have this year. I wouldn't be surprised if by the end of the year I introduce websites to them as well. Certainly my 4s, and last year my 5s, every single one of my grade 5s created a website. And they all came up with a unique voice. And it's so much easier to teach what that is when they can see their own and compare it to other students as well. I think, not to mention all the basic skills of reading and writing and punctuation, all those come along, and they have such a purpose for it. They're more conscious of who's going to see this, and they need to have it look good. In the media literacy world, it's incredible, some of the expectations that come in there for them. So before I get to there, the writing, the selecting pieces of writing that they think show their best work. Well, that's expectation. I believe it's 4.3, and it's even called portfolio in grade 3. So it's pretty cool. Producing media text. So like I said, for the audiences, it says using a few simple media forms for grade 3. Well, honestly, the way that websites work now, a website build is pretty simple, and we hope that you experience that tonight as well too, and you'll understand why our students do. So that's just a quick talk about curriculum expectations.
Trisha's going to take you on a little tour, I think, or talk a little bit about her student site. But before she does, I just wanted to mention that I have put the links to these in the chat, and Trisha's student site that she'll talk about is a site that she created with her students at school. You'll notice that mine says summer camp websites. The last 6 years I have not been in a classroom. I've been working in a support role with teachers. But Trisha and I both run summer enrichment camps for students, and we do technology camps. So these are 2 links that I've done with my students using Google Sites. But I want you to just keep in mind that there's summer camp websites. So you'll see some pretty goofy stuff on there because it was summer camp. It wasn't school. Especially on the second one, I did a zombie-themed camp, which was a huge hit. We had a bit of a rockin' week, I'll tell you. But you'll see some, murder scenes and so on. Just take it all with a grain of salt. It was summer camp. So I'm going to turn it over to Trish to talk about her site.
All right, so yes, I've got a school site, but I think it's pretty amazing too. So this is a site by Liliana, and she has authorized me to share it for this year and next year as well. So the background is I waited till springtime, late March, I believe, we started putting this together. Why? Because I was teaching a lot of the tools ahead of time. They were getting used to what Google Drive could do as well. And also, you heard me mention using the iPads, and we take pictures on there. What can we do with them? Well, they learned how to upload into their Google Drive. So we had a lot of content first before I even gave them the idea that they were going to do websites, so that when we get into it, they already have some portfolio to choose from right in their Google Drive that they could literally click and choose, and bang, it would be right there. And I think that's a pretty important strategy to keep in mind if you want some success with them. So I'm going to let you click on the link in the chat. I believe we're setting the timer for a few minutes. Yep, we'll give you about 3 minutes. I'd like you to take a look at Liliana's site. I'll speak to it after you come back. So I think Susan is setting up the timer for us. You'll hear a bit of a ding sound when the time is up. She has lots of pages. Take a look at her setup and have some fun taking a look at it. Yep, you can write in the chat if that's working for you okay. And we'll talk to you again in less than 3 minutes. Okay, the timer has gone. I hope you had a chance to take a peek at it. And now that you've been there, I thought I'd give you a quick little background. This is Liliana, who 3 years ago didn't speak any English. And she is a very quiet and shy student. And she's one of the ones that surprised me. She had a lot to say, and what a unique voice. She's got a sense of humor that came out that she was too shy to show in the classroom. Pretty powerful for her to be able to do this. And hers was indeed shared around the world, so she's had feedback from family in many parts across the waters. So pretty amazing. And I like hers too because, as she mentions, I don't know if you saw on the math page, but some of the photos went upside down, and we all were trying to brainstorm to figure this out and what we could do for it. So those links will be there if you want to visit again. She knows that I use it as a teaching tool, as an example, so she doesn't do any more to it so that we can see what was accomplished just in those few months. And hopefully you noticed that lots of other applications came in. We saw some bit strips in there, some word clouds. And that's all I want to say about that site, and you're welcome to look at it again anytime. Let's move on. All righty, I hope you are now jazzed and ready to figure out how to make one of these. And here's our strategy for tonight. So you are actually making a real Google site, and for some of you, it's one that you're going to continue. Some of you might want to use the strategy of just making a tester one tonight. Your choice. We hope that you've all logged into your Gmail or Google account. Like I said, we're going to chunk it into 6 steps. We've tested these out. These are very similar to what I use with students as well. We'll give instructions, and then we'll give you some work time to go and do it. But we are always available in the chat. It'd be nice if we get to some show and tell time, but we know these things always get rushed at the end. We'll see. And the most important point is the last bullet there, that we have a how-to site, and we are going to keep it open as a resource throughout the evening. So even if the timer's on, you got too long a question to put in the chat, go check there if you think you missed something. It's all laid out exactly the same way that we're going to speak it, pretty much to the word. Alrighty, so let's get started with the first part. I'll let Susan take over.
Okay, so step 1 is kind of a big one because this is actually creating the site. So as Tricia's mentioned, Blackboard is a window that's open on your desktop, but you should also have, we hope, Chrome browser or another browser open. And at this point, hopefully you have a tab open with your Google Drive or your Gmail open. And then on another tab, our how-to website. And you may have other tabs open, you know, maybe you're tweeting, maybe you're looking at Facebook between sessions. So those could be open as well. But having multiple tabs open is important. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm actually going to use a tool in Blackboard called Application Sharing, which is going to turn the whiteboard that you're currently looking at that says Step 1, create your site. It's going to get rid of that, and it's going to share my desktop with you. And I'm going to walk through the steps that are outlined on this screen. So I'm going to go to my Google Drive. I'm going to use the Create button. I'm going to create a website. I'm going to show you how you can find the pencil tool, and I'm going to put some messages on my home page. This is intended as a demonstration. This is not intended for you to be doing it at the same time that I'm demoing. I think it will make more sense if you just sort of sit back with your arms folded and watch me. And then I'm going to stop. It'll take me about 2 minutes to do that. Then I'm going to put this screen back on, and we'll set the timer for 10 minutes. And then you can go back and do those steps. If you feel that that's too many things to remember, especially if this is brand new to you, do remember that our website has everything I'm about to say in screenshots, all outlined. So it's quite nice. So and please use the chat. Yeah, Trish will monitor the chat while I'm talking. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. It just takes me a minute to set this up. Okay, so hopefully now what you're looking at is my Google Drive. And what we're going to look for is the Google Grid. I'm circling it right now with my mouse. Some people call it the Rubik's Cube. Some people call it the 9 dots. But basically, if you mouse over it, it says Google Apps. And if you click on it, it opens up a window, and it shows you various other apps that are connected to your Google account. If you're in Google Apps for Education, Google Sites will be right here on this first list, I think. Ours is with the Waterloo board. Mine is not, so I have to click on the More button down at the bottom, and you might find that you have to do that as well. So I'm going to click on More, and I'm scouring and looking for sites, and it's still not showing up. So I'm going to click Even More, and that's going to open up a giant window of selections. And I'm going to scroll down. Now, be warned, when I scroll, your screen does some pretty weird things as it tries to keep up with me. So you'll see it doing that. And as I come down to Home and Office, you'll see that over here on the right, it takes me to Sites. So I'm going to click this, and this will now take me out to Google Sites. Now, if you have never been to Google Sites before, this will be empty. I've created all kinds of Google Sites for myself and with students, so I've got a whole list, but you'll have nothing here. But what we're going to choose this evening, I'm going to do it right now. I'm going to click on the Create button. When I click on the Create button, it takes me to this very important window, and I'd like to highlight a few things on here. First of all, by default, it chooses blank template, and I'm going to recommend that. You might be tempted to say, oh, here's a classroom site, maybe I'll try this. I do not recommend that. It gives you a full-blown, already created site, and it's very difficult to edit it. It's much easier to start from scratch and to put into your site what it is that you want. So I'm going to recommend that you leave it at blank template. I'm going to scroll down because I want you to see a little bit more of what's on this page. So two decisions to make now, what you're going to call your site. So I'm going to make my site Susan's website. What happens when I decide on a title like that is that the site location, the URL, is automatically generated from the text that I have typed into Name Your Site. This right here, your name of your site, the title, can be changed later. The URL cannot be changed later. Also, they don't have to match. If I were to change this now to Susan's amazing website, oh, it does change it right there. Okay, I'm going to go back to Susan's website. And you know, you might think that that's a good title for your website. So just to know, this cannot be changed. This can be changed later. This cannot be changed later. So make sure that it's a URL that makes sense. Also, I'd like to draw your attention to the format of your URL. Because we're using a tool within your Google account, it has a fairly long, cumbersome address, and you can't really get around that. When I've done this with students, they all want to say, well, why can't I have my own site like susanwatt.ca? You can, but those are purchasable through a web hosting service. And I heard a great story about how one private high school decided to give all of their students their own domain names as graduation presents instead of, you know, hats with dangly things on them. They gave them their own web domain, and that was a pretty neat 21st century thing to do for graduating students. Anyway, that's just a little aside, but kids always ask that question, so to be prepared. I will come back and talk about this more later, but the next step here is to select a theme. And this is fun. Google has, I'm going to scroll, be warned, your screen will do some weird things here now. There's lots of things to choose from. If you have already looked at the site that Trish and I created for tonight, it uses this theme. I'm going to choose a different one. I'm going to choose Legal Pad just for tonight. But you can certainly browse through these. This is also completely changeable later. And all I've done there is I've just closed that Select a Theme window. More options you can ignore. There's nothing there that really matters for beginners. If you're in Google Apps, you probably don't have a CAPTCHA, but if you're working within your Google account, you do. So you need to check I am not a robot, which just makes sure that you're not something automated that's designing a whole pile of websites all at once. Sometimes, well, I think we're going to see this happen. Once you've made those choices, you're going to go back and click on the Create button and cross your fingers. Because what you're hoping is that no one else in the entire world has ever chosen Susan's website as their website URL. Let's see. Well, what do you know? The location I've chosen is not available. I did this on purpose. This is something that students need to be warned about, and it's a good lesson. How many people in the world do you think have ever created a Google site? Well, millions. possibly billions. So we need to make sure that there's something unique in your web address. You may have noticed when you looked at Tricia's students that they used a number that was associated with their student number that no one else would know. The URL doesn't matter. So I'm going to give my website now sort of an odd little numeric Susan 727, well, whatever. And that's now going to be my URL. And students will say, oh yeah, but that's so boring. Remember, this can change. You can go back and call it Susan's Amazing Website later, but you're giving it a unique URL. I'm now going to be a robot again, not a robot. And I'm going to click Create Site and cross my fingers. And it's taking a little bit longer this time. Generally, that means it's working. So we're happy. Sorry? Yeah, okay, there we go. So here's my website, and I want to show you a few things about it. So here's the boring title, and you don't really want that there, so I'm going to show you in a little while how you can change that. But here is your unique URL. You're good. You've got a website. Hooray. You're in this is what the world would see. You are also seeing a white bar across the top that has 3 editing buttons, and we're going to talk about, well, 4 if you include the share button. We will be spending other steps taking a look at what you can do in each of these. But for this first step, I'd like you to click on the pencil tool, which is going to open up the page editing tool. And I'd like you to put a message on your home page. So welcome to Susan's Amazing New Website. Now, of course, we will talk about this later, but with students, you do need to talk to them about the fact that they never share personal information on this page. First names are fine. Addresses, phone numbers, email addresses, anything that gives anyone any personal connection or way of contacting is not appropriate. So that's a conversation to have ahead of doing this with students for sure. If you've used Google Docs, you'll notice that this bar looks quite familiar. So play around a little bit with it. Put some welcome messages on here. Don't worry about images. Kids always want to put pictures on immediately. That's one of our steps for this evening. So we'll be doing that a little bit later. Once you have put a message on your home page, it's very important that you save it. Google Docs, Google Slideshows save automatically. Websites do not. So you do have to click Save, and many things happen when you click the Save button. It saves your work, but it also uploads it so that it's available on the internet. So I think that is our first set of steps. What I'm going to do now is go back to Blackboard, and I'm going to close application sharing, which is going to take you back to our slideshow with step number 1. So that's our first set of steps. What we'd like you to do is, I'm going to set the timer for 10 minutes, and we'd like you to go ahead and do all of that yourself. And if you have any questions or concerns, by all means, come on into the chat and ask, or you can pick up your mic and you can talk to us, because Tricia and I will both be present. So go have some fun and set up your site.
All right, folks, I hope that was fun for you. The timer has gone. I'm going to give you a moment to pop back, and when you come back, you will see the step 2, add a new page. And Susan's going to continue to answer questions in the chat box. This time, Susan took you right to the site she created, but we're going to save some time here. This is pretty straightforward. So what we've got here is a screenshot, and I am just going to walk you through this a little bit. At the top, you can see the red arrow, and it says locate and click the new page button. So we're going to add our first page. And when I did this with my students, we did them by subject area. So I really set the theme of this is a student work portfolio kind of a website. They didn't know it, but later on I let them add their own extra fun page. But at the beginning of this, they added the first one. So it's important to keep a pretty short page name, I would recommend. So math was a good one. Art was another great one. And then when you click that little page with the plus sign on it, up comes name your page. And you can see that there'll be a website attached with it, so you can make links directly to certain pages in the future. Then you will want to add some text to your new page, and then I'd like you to make sure that you add another page as well too. And you will find also that you need to select a location. And the big thing here is to choose, put the page at the top level. There's something called nesting of pages, and that can get a little complicated. We like to keep this first website nice and simple and clean, so we'll have home page, and below it, the pages that you create, one after the other. Alrighty, the time is going to be a little shorter this time, so we think you're going to handle this up quite nice. And for some of you that have been practicing with the editing tool, you'll get a chance to use it again. So it'll be the new page, and then you'll use the, after you've named it, you'll use the pencil tool again. So here we go with 5 minutes. Talk to you in a few. And maybe if you want to give me some thumbs up if it's going well for you, that'd be great.
Okay. By the questions being asked in the chat, it certainly sounds like you're exploring and having some success doing some of these things. You're also seeing that it's important to attend to what mode you're in. So are you editing a page? If you're editing, let's say, your home page, then you can't add a new page until you first save and get back to the original 3 buttons up at the top. So it is a little bit different getting used to that, having to save before you can go to the next step. So thank you. Continue asking your questions, and it's certainly letting us see that, and okay, Trisha's answering questions in the chat. Okay, I'm going to move on to step number 3, which is adding images. Students are very keen to do this, and before adding images onto their site, I would have an entirely separate lesson in the classroom, not attached to a computer or a device, if you haven't already. And I would be reviewing issues of copyright and usage rights when it comes to using images, because of course I hope you are all aware that there's pretty clear guidelines around what images we can use and what images we don't have permission to use. Because websites are public and also Googleable, it's very important that we adhere to terms of service of images before we put any images on our website. Trisha's site that you may have looked at, most of the content, the beautiful images on Liliana's site, or things that you created yourself. So this is really the best solution, is that you're creating your own content, either on an iPad or another device or in another app, and then putting your very own creations on your website. However, there are certainly times that you may want to Google images. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to use that same tool again called application sharing, and I'm going to walk through the steps of searching for an image that is labeled for reuse and then putting it on my website. So I'm going to recommend that you just watch me doing this, and then we'll give you some time, possibly not 10 minutes because our time is going, but we'll give you some time to go and do this yourself. So if you'll just give me a second to set up application sharing, you will be looking at my screen again. Yeah, there you go. So I've opened up a brand new tab here, so there's nothing on this yet. And I'm going to look for an image. So let's say I wanted to look for an image of a tiger. It always seems to be my favorite thing to search for. And I'm going to click on images so that I'm looking for tiger images. And what you see here is the full and complete collection of every single tiger image that is on the internet. And there will be millions and millions and millions of them. And there's no way of knowing from looking at this page which you have permission to use. So we're going to go into search tools. I will also say at this time that there are many other ways of doing this. This is one of the simplest, and I think it's a process students should use even if there are other ways. When I clicked on search tools, a whole new menu arose, and I'm going to click here on usage rights, and there are 5 levels of usage rights of images online. For school purposes, we generally choose labeled for reuse. If you're a business, you can see that some of the other options apply to you. So when I choose labeled for reuse, it limits my search to a much smaller selection. And I'm going to choose one of these images. I'm going to take the roaring tiger over here. And I'm going to click on that roaring tiger because this image is a thumbnail. So it doesn't have high enough resolution to use on my website. But if I click on it, it will take me to a larger version of that very same image. So I'm just going to give it a minute to show up on your screen. And then what I'm going to do on this image is I'm going to right-click, or I'm on a Mac, so I'm going to Control-click, and it's going to show a menu. And that menu has many options. I'm sort of looking at Tricia's machine here, and I'm seeing that it's not showing up on hers. So I'm hoping that it's showing up on yours. If not, these instructions are on the website. So the option that you're going to choose is Copy Image Address. And I'm going to select Copy Image Address. And now I'm going to go back to my website. So in my browser, I'm going to click back on my website, and you are now looking at the site that I created. You can see that I also added some extra pages down the left-hand side. We're going to talk about modifying the sidebar a little bit later, but now I'd like to put that image here on my science page. So I'm going to go up to my pencil tool to edit this page. And when I click on my pencil tool, it opens up my editing toolbar. To add an image, I'm going to choose from the Insert menu, Insert Image. And the Insert Image window opens, and there's different ways of doing this. I'm going to choose Web Address. And I'm going to paste that address that I copied into that web address. And it shows me the image that I chose, and I'm going to click OK. And it's going to put that image on the page. The image is going to show up on your page in its full size. Sometimes they're incredibly gigantic, but you'll also notice that underneath the image or somewhere on the image is an image editing bar. So I'm going to choose different sizes until I find the size that I want. So that's a much more reasonable size. The nice thing about putting a picture in this way is that the link to the site where that picture came from is attached to the image. So that is your attribution. That is your safety net in terms of abiding by terms of service. So I'm now going to click on Save, and my picture is now there. So I'm now going to go back to the slideshow, and I'm going to quit application sharing, which will take you back to step number 3, adding Googleable images, which is basically the instructions that I just used. On our sample website, there is also a page about adding images that has screenshots of what I just did. So later today, with your students, you're certainly welcome to go there and give that a try. For some, yeah, there's, as we mentioned, there's a number of other ways of bringing in pictures, but that is the way that I think is best in terms of abiding by copyright and usage rights. So Rashna, I'm not going to repeat it here. However, if you go to the website, everything I said, pretty much word for word, is right there listed on our website. I could. Trish is just suggesting that maybe I demo again while the timer's on. So let me set the timer. It says 10 minutes. I'm going to change that to 5 minutes. And I will do the demo again for those of you that would like to see it again. Yeah. Where is the website? Okay, I'm going to put the link in the chat again. That's not it. Sorry, we shared this at the beginning, but I'll share it again. This is the website that Trish and I have created, which has all of these instructions for you to use either as a follow-up to tonight. I created this site actually for use with students. So you're welcome to give the link to your students and have them use it as well, because it tries my attempt to create step-by-step instructions that were easy to follow. So if you go to this site and then choose the Add an Image link, the instructions are right there. Yep, so for those of you that would like to see it again, I'm going to go back and do that search one more time for a different image. Okay, so here I am on a brand new page, and I'm going to search for, I'm going to do a cat this time. So I'm searching for cat images, and once again, this is the full collection of every cat picture that has ever been put on the internet. We want to find cat images that we have permission to use. So we're going to choose Search Tools. Then, from the new menu, we're going to choose Usage Rights. There are 5 options. The middle one is generally the one we use in education. Images that are labeled for reuse. So the people who took them know that you're going to be using them, and they've put them here for you to use. So I'm going to find an image of a cat. I'm going to do this one. And I'm going to click on it to get the full-size image and not use the thumbnail. The thumbnail is very poor resolution for use really anywhere. I'm going to right-click on that image, and from the menu that shows up, I'm going to choose Copy Image Address. So if you're seeing a gray box instead of a list of options, that's an internet speed thing. But trust me, one of your options will be Copy Image Address. So I'm selecting that. I'm now going to go back to my website. And on my website, I'm going to choose the page. So I want to put my cat picture on my math page. And I'm going to click on the pencil, which brings up my editing tools. Way over at the left, there's an Insert menu. Choose Insert, Image. Trish will be talking about these other options a little bit later. Image, and then choose Web Address, and paste in the address of the image. Then click OK down at the bottom, and it will put that image on your page. It comes in full size, so click around until you find a size that's appropriate. And then, of course, your final step is to click Save. I hope that was helpful. Okay, I'm glad I had time to go through that twice. It looks like we had a couple of people following along, so good. Continue to give us some feedback. I'm hearing some thanks and great, so yay. That's good. I know it's a lot to try and do, especially at the end of a long work day, so good for you. Step number 4 is an important one. We have well, they're all important, but we've taken a look at the pencil tool, and we've taken a look at the new page tool. There's a third one on your site that is a gear symbol. Gear symbols are always magical. They do many, many things. And so we're going to take a look at the gear symbol, and I'm going to show you 2 or 3 things, but the big one is manage site. Many of your site editing options can happen by going to Manage Site. So once again, I'm going to go to the site that I've created using application sharing and just do a quick little demonstration of this. There we are. Okay, and you should be looking at my cute little cat that I put on in my last demonstration. So this is the website that I've created. You'll notice here on the left that I've created art, math, and science pages besides my home page. One of the things I didn't mention was that it is website best practice to leave your home page called home page. I regret that I didn't mention that at the time. You can change it, but it's not good practice in the world of web design to change it. People like you to have a home page, and they like it to be called home. The other thing that can sometimes happen if you rename it, it can mess up the navigation of your site if it's not clear which one is the home page. You may have noticed that when you add a new page, it wasn't part of your home page, but for all the new pages that you've added, you have 2 things that have come by default at the bottom. One, add files, and another one which is comments. With students, I always have them delete these because the comments section doesn't work, for one. Certainly not in Google Apps for Education. And with students, very often, they're not adding files. That's more of a business thing. I would prefer students find other ways of sharing rather than having PDF links at the bottom of their website. So the first thing I'm going to show you under the gear symbol is how to get rid of add files and comments. So I'm going to scroll back up again. Your page will look a little weird for a second while I do that. And here is the gears symbol. I'm clicking on the gears symbol, and you'll see that there's a fairly robust menu that pops up. To get rid of that add files and comments at the bottom, I'm going to go to page settings. And I'm going to click on page settings, and you'll see that a page settings window opens up. And I'm going to deselect allow comments and allow attachments, and then click Save. And that will get rid of those 2 sections at the bottom of the page. I will then go and do that for my science page and my art page, but you don't need to watch me do that, so I won't do that now. But when you go back to your site, you can do that as well, because it's good to get rid of them. I'm going to click again on gears, and I mentioned before that the really critical area is down here, Manage Site. When you go to Manage Site, you remember right off the top, I said you could change your site name. I don't want it to be called Susan97 whatever. I want it to be Susan's Amazing Website, which is what kids love to call their websites. So I'm going to change it right there, and then I'm going to click Save. And you'll see when we go back to the site that it will have that new name. Down the left-hand side, down at the very bottom, themes, colors, and fonts is an important area, and students love to play around in here and personalize the theme that they've chosen. So I chose Legal Pad Theme, which came with a text that was already chosen for me. I'm not really keen on this text. I don't have to keep it. And in fact, everything about my site I can change right here. If I want to change the site header, which is this section here, I can choose a different background, I can choose a different title, color, theme, and so on. I can change in the content area, all of the different sections of the content area. So you can see that every area has different options for how you can change things. So in my site header, let's say I wanted to have a different, I don't want that theme, I want to have a different font. Sometimes you get, yeah, there you go. You got all kinds of choices. And the area down here does it for you automatically so that you can see what it will look like. So you can play around and, ugh, lovely. Yeah, yuck, we won't choose that one. So I'm going to pick one just quickly because you can play with that yourself. Don't forget to save. To get out of this area, it's not intuitive how you get back, but right here, Susan's Amazing Website with a little arrow, click on that and it will take you back to your site and you can see your changes. So that's the all amazing gear symbol and manage site. So I'm going to give you a little bit of time. I'm going back now to step number 4. It says 5 minutes. I'm going to cut that down to 3 minutes to go back to your site, click on the gear symbol, and at least find those two things, page settings and manage site. And again, feel free to put your questions into the chat, questions or comments. Laura, I think I figured out what you meant. To get rid of those files at the bottom, click on page settings. Sorry, that took me a second.
All right, that was the timer that just went. And we're at step 5. This is getting exciting. Your websites are getting, what we say, more robust. There are more things on there. So I get to show you the insert menu, and a couple of the questions that have come in have been about putting more things in. It's exciting to add to it. So I'm going to talk to you about some of the easy ways to do some things. So Susan's going to advance it for me to the next slide. And she has a little screenshot here of what the insert looks like when you click on it. And I wrote in the chat box, I love little triangles and that kind of thing. There's so much here that you can get in. And somebody asked about video. If you look at the very bottom under map, you'll see YouTube. YouTube links in so nicely. And we've got lots of stuff. Text boxes, HTML boxes. But it's the drive that gets me so excited, and that's why I do all that prep work ahead of time, making sure they have content in there. And if you click drive, then it goes right to your files, your images in drive as well. You'll have instant access to them all. Any docs that you've created, that kind of thing. So it's really nice. We've also embedded slideshows as well too, presentations from drive. That's lovely. They do a lot of work on something, and they want to have that slideshow saved. It's fabulous. So lots in there that you can choose from, and we're of course hoping that after this session is done, you're going to find some time to play with all these things. But that's it for step 5. We're going to move on. We're going to give you 2 minutes to explore that insert a little bit. Just 2, and then we're going to get to step 6. It's exciting. Off you go.
There's our timer. Okay, I'm going to advance to step number 6. And I'd like to talk about both this slide and the next one at the same time, rather, because I'm going to demo both of them, but rather than demo one and then let you work, and because we're at 5 to 9, I think I'm going to do them both at the same time. So modifying your sidebar, the sidebar is the list of pages that you've created, and you will remember on mine I created an art, a science, and a math page besides my home page. If you have created more than one page, you'll see the same thing. And you have no control over the order of those pages. And at some point, you may want to control the order. You may want a certain one to be at the top and a certain, anyway. So modifying your sidebar is something that I'm going to demonstrate in a moment. But the next step is talking about privacy and sharing. And this is not difficult, but I'm going to do it at the same time if that's okay with you, how you can make your site public. So I'll go back to application sharing, and I'm going to show you my website. Hold on just a second here. Okay, sorry. So application sharing, and what you're going to be looking at is the home page of the site that I made for tonight. So you can see that down the left-hand side, mine are art, math, science. Your sitemap is just something that should stay there. It just indicates all of the parts of your website. To change the order of those, I'm going to go, guess where, to the gears, and I'm going to choose something called Edit Site Layout, which is down near the bottom, just above Manage Site. And when I do that, you may have noticed that on my website now there are a few things that I didn't see before. And if I mouse over certain sections of my site, it will highlight and give me options. Now it's the sidebar that I want to modify, and I want to modify the navigation. So I'm mousing over it. If I mouse off, it's not highlighted. If I mouse on, it's highlighted, and that's what we want. I'm going to click on that, and it's going to take me to how I would configure my navigation. There's a check mark right here that says automatically organize my navigation. So as students create pages, this is very nice in the beginning because they don't have to think about putting it in their sidebar. It happens automatically. This is, I would say, a more advanced skill. When you deselect that, basically you will have nothing in your navigation sidebar until you add it. So I would like to add pages. So I'm going to click Add Page, and the first page that I want is Home, and then I'm going to click OK. I want to add another page. Now I want to add Art, and click OK. You have to add each of your pages manually this way because it's not being done automatically for you. Now, once they're all here, you can easily move them around. Oops, math is the one we're going to be using every single day, so I want that to be right under home page. So you can see that your navigation here is very nice. You can also get rid of them here if you want to. So I'm going to click on OK, and now I'm in charge of my sidebar. The only thing I will mention is that once you've taken control of your sidebar, now when you make a new page, it doesn't show up here until you add it. So it's no longer automatic. So, you know, depending on the age and experience of your students, that may not be something that you want to bother with in the beginning. Now, I'd like to talk about privacy and sharing. This blue share button up in the top right-hand corner is quite a curiosity, I would have to say, because every single time I've ever taught this until Sunday, yesterday, when Trish and I were practicing, when you first create a website, it always used to be private, and there would be a little lock symbol on it. For the first time ever, yesterday, when we were creating sites, that lock symbol was not there. So your site is public right now. Now, I'm pretty sure that if you're in Google Apps for Education, Trish tested this yesterday. Student sites are private, so it will have a little lock symbol on it instead of a globe symbol. When you mouse over the share button, you can see what your privileges are. Now, to change the privileges and the access and the privacy, click on the share button, and it will open up this sharing window. Now, if you have used Google Docs, this will look familiar. Here's your sharing link. So you can share this link in a text message, you can share this link in an email, you can share this link in a chat box, for example. Some of you may wish to grab it right now and copy it and put it in the chat box, because one of our next steps will be to offer you the chance to do a little show and tell if you'd like to. So if yours was private, then if you click on the Change button, you can make your website this is the one I usually choose, anyone with the link. Public means it's searchable. With the link means it's not so searchable. So you actually have to provide the link to someone for them to see it. So that's what I usually choose, and then click Save. Now, I mentioned right off the top that you can also invite people to collaborate with you. So if you have another teaching partner or a grade group team, if you invite them using their Google address, and give them privileges so they can edit the website with you, so you can collaborate. If students are working together, they can add their friend's name in here and they can collaborate. So once again, I've now made it sharing, and I'm going back to my website, and those are the two little things here. So I'm now going to close application sharing and take you back to the screen with privacy options and sharing. It is now 9 o'clock. Hey, Leslie has shared a link to her website in there. Awesome, very good. When you invite parents, can you BCC them? Yes, I would say you could put a link into an email and you could BCC all of the parents. Lots of ways of sharing the link. You can put the link to your website. You know, I've had teachers that have made little stickers and stuck the stickers right in the students' planners so that everybody has a link to it, so that, you know, your classroom website goes right there. I'm going to move on. If you are willing, there's Daryl's as well. Thank you so much. Really appreciate those of you that are a little bit brave and are putting your link in there. We totally appreciate that you are, you know, newbies at this, and this may be your very first website. Okay, Trisha's giggling beside me. I don't know if you can hear it, laughing at your foodie pictures. So thank you very okay, these are quite precious. You'll have to take a look at each other's. So thank you for doing that, and you can continue. I'm going to keep on talking, but you are certainly welcome to continue sharing some of those resources. So I'm going to move on to resources and supports. Trish, I'm going to get you to talk about these two things while I put the links into the site, if that's okay, or into the chat.
Okay, this is nice and straightforward. So first off is there our how-to again. We've got it in the chat twice. You can scroll through there, but you will also be getting a link to this presentation again, or you can copy it and save it and bookmark it. It's pretty nice, and like she said, you can definitely share this with other teachers at your sites, anybody else that you think would like to use it. And we also added the Google Sites Help Center. It's really a helpful one. It's not one of those big, massive sites where you get lost, but we found this one has been very helpful for us when we get those really tricky situations and we want an answer quick. We found that one helps out a lot. And I will echo what Susan said. Thank you for sharing a couple. It's always strange to not be able to see your screens. I usually love walking around and doing a little show and tell that way. So thanks again, everybody. And I'll turn it back to Susan.
So I know we're 9:02, and thank you so much. You've been amazing. We've got a full house right to the end, so good for you. I hope that you have a website. I hope it's worked. We are curious to know how you might use Google Sites this year. So if you want to take a minute and just take a text box and put a note in there, like I'm going to try this with my grade 7 class, or I want to make my own personal site, or I'm going to teach my grade partners how to do this. Just add something in the pink box there to indicate to us how you think you might use Google Sites as the year goes on. I'll just give you a minute to do that. If you have to go, I will just say that the next slide is going to be an evaluation link for this session. OTF is very appreciative of the feedback that they received from participants in terms of, you know, how you felt it went and what did you learn and what might you like to see in the future. This program has expanded enormously this year. They've pretty much doubled the number of sessions that they're offering, and the numbers at each session are much greater than they've ever been, and they're finding that some of the popular sessions are having to be offered more often. This is the first time Google Sites for Students has been offered, so we're excited to see that you're here. So thank you for these responses on here. Yes, someone's written, I can't see who's written them, but grade 6 social studies global issues. Yeah, making a site for a specific project is a great idea. That's what I did years ago with I used to teach enrichment students, and they would use it as their way of sharing. And such a great way of sharing, especially Google Sites, because they integrate with all of the other Google tools. So it's terrific. Lucy didn't get it to upload the picture. Well, you know, an hour and a half is a pretty good introduction to Google Sites, and that's why we were really keen to have a resource for you that you could access. So that website that we've created basically has everything that we did tonight and a couple more things. So Sorry? Ask us, or haha, yes, keep trying or ask a student, absolutely. I've done that, Trisha's done it with grade 5s, I've done it with lots and lots of grade 7s. Last year I was into a number of classes. So I'm going to move on to the next slide because I don't want to hold you up here. And thank you very much. There's a link right there, the letters in orange, that is clickable. I'm also going to put that into the chat. If you just give me a second here. Slides template. So yeah, it's in the chat as well, and that's an evaluation. There are OTF Connect sessions continuing until May. When you look at the they will be running Mondays to Thursdays. On the calendar there are some blank dates at this point, but they will be filled. There are plenty of sessions and lots coming up. I'm going to move ahead to the next slide. These are the upcoming sessions in the next week and a half. Next Thursday is still to be announced, but there will be sessions. The Minecraft and Makerspace workshops are hugely popular this year. Making Minecraft with Brian Aspinall has been sold out since the second day it was put up on registration, so that one will be offered again if it's something that you were interested in. And I'm going to skip that one. So I'm going to put it back to the links slide, and I will say thank you once again. It's 9:06. You've done a great job making your websites. I hope you will use them this year yourself, with your colleagues, with your students. When you're finished, if you either click on Blackboard Collaborate and quit the application, that's the best way, or you can just click on your close window button, and that usually will work as well.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody. Goodbye, Leslie. Thank you all for your questions. I hope you got answers that were satisfying. Okay, my mic's still on, sorry. We're still here for a couple minutes if you have any last minute questions. And once again, I forgot to turn off the recording. So here I go, turning off the recording.